One day, your child seems completely fine. The next day, something feels different. And you start wondering, is this normal? Or am I missing something important? Because here's the truth. Most behaviors mean nothing on their own, but some patterns actually do. And once you see them, you won't look at your child's behavior the same way again. Research actually shows that parental intuition is statistically significant. When a parent feels something is different about their child's development, they are often right. But intuition needs context. That's what we are building today. In the last videos, we talked about early signs of ADHD and autism, and what actually helps children before any diagnosis. But that still leaves one big question. What actually matters? Because there are so many behaviors, so many moments that could mean something, or nothing at all. And that uncertainty can be exhausting. So today, we're going to simplify this. Not by listing 20 different signs, but by focusing on the few patterns that experts consistently take seriously over time. Think of this as a filter, a way to separate what's part of normal development from what might need a closer look. Before we start, just one quick reminder. No single sign means anything on its own. What matters is how often it happens, how intense it is, and whether it stays consistent over time. That's what turns behavior into a pattern. And patterns are what matter. Development is messy. There will be outliers. But when multiple outliers cluster together, that is when we pay attention. Let's start with the first one. Persistent sleep dysregulation. Many children go through phases where sleep is difficult. That's completely normal. But when sleep challenges are ongoing, hard to improve, and show up night after night, that becomes important. A child who struggles to fall asleep, wakes frequently, or seems tired, but still can't settle. And here's why this matters so much. A tired brain cannot regulate itself. Sleep is when the brain processes the emotional experiences of the day. It's essentially a reset button for the nervous system. If that reset doesn't happen fully, the brain starts the next day already running on deficit. So what you see during the day, the impulsivity, the emotional reactions, the difficulty focusing, often starts at night. This is not just a sleep issue. It's a regulation issue. The second pattern is delays in communication or movement. Now, every child develops differently, and variation is completely normal. But here's the key question. Is development moving forward? Because even slow progress is still progress. But when development seems to stall, or important skills don't begin to emerge, that's when it becomes meaningful. This could look like limited use of gestures, very slow language development, or noticeable differences in coordination. Pay close attention to nonverbal communication. Is your child pointing to share interest? Are they responding to their name consistently? These often emerge before words and are powerful indicators of social engagement. It's not about comparing your child to others. It's about noticing change over time. The third pattern is extreme difficulty with emotional regulation. All children have big emotions. But in some children, those emotions don't just come and go. They take over. They build quickly. They feel intense. And they are very hard to come down from. You might notice frequent meltdowns, reactions that feel much bigger than the situation, or a child who struggles to calm down, even with support. Here is a specific metric: recovery time. A typical tantrum might last minutes. A dysregulated meltdown can last an hour or more, leaving the child exhausted afterward. It's not just the storm. It's how long it takes to clear the sky. And this is important. This is not about behavior. It's about capacity. The brain is struggling to regulate intensity. The fourth pattern is unusual responses to sensory input. Some children experience the world more intensely. Sounds feel louder. Lights feel brighter. Textures feel uncomfortable. Others seek more input. They move constantly, touch everything, or look for strong physical experiences. This might look like refusing to wear certain shoes because of a seam, covering ears at vacuum cleaners, or crashing into furniture intentionally. It's not defiance, it's physiology. And from the outside, this can seem unrelated. But underneath, it's the same system. The nervous system trying to find balance. What matters is not the behavior itself, but how strong, how frequent, and how persistent it is. Because sensory processing influences how a child experiences everything else. The fifth and most important pattern is consistency across situations. A behavior in one situation is usually not a concern. A child might struggle in a loud environment, but be calm at home. That makes sense. But when the same patterns appear across different situations, at home, outside, with different people, and continue over time, that's when it becomes meaningful. Experts look for this specifically because it rules out temporary stressors. If a child is struggling everywhere, it suggests an internal neurological difference rather than an external environmental cause. Because now, we're not looking at a situation, we're looking at a pattern. And here's something many parents miss. Sometimes, these patterns are not extreme. They are subtle. A child who is slightly more intense, slightly more sensitive, slightly harder to settle. But it's always there, in the background. And over time, those small differences start to add up. That's why patterns matter more than moments. Now let's bring this together. Imagine a child who struggles with sleep over a long period, has very intense emotional reactions, shows sensory sensitivities, and these patterns appear consistently in daily life. Each of these alone might not mean much, but together, they form a pattern. This cluster is what clinicians call a clinical picture. It's the combination of factors that guides understanding and support. And here's the most important part. This is not about worrying, it's about clarity. Because when you know what actually matters, you stop second-guessing every small behavior. And instead, you start observing with purpose. Knowledge reduces anxiety. When you can name what you are seeing, it becomes less scary. It becomes something you can work with, rather than something you fear. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. It's not the behavior itself, it's the pattern behind it. How often? How intense? How consistent? That's what turns everyday challenges into meaningful signals. In the next video, we're going to talk about something that brings relief to many parents. What actually causes ADHD and autism, and why it has nothing to do with bad parenting. There are so many myths out there that make parents feel guilty. We're going to clear those up with science, because once you understand that, something important shifts. And if this video gave you clarity, you can share it with someone who might need exactly that right now.